am Melisa Nielsen with Waldorf Essentials. We are going to talk about creating a Waldorf-inspired kindergarten at home. So that is the topic of today. I have a fair amount of notes here in front of me. So this would be an appropriate call if you're considering our kindergarten. So we'll talk a fair amount about that. If you already have our kindergarten, we'll talk a fair amount about, things that you can be doing at home. So if you have questions, please ask, and I will be happy to answer them for you. So let's start with this idea. So the first Waldorf school did not have kindergarten. Steiner was not even, he was all about the child that was 7 or nearly 7, not about the little ones. So after a while that sort of came about, and they started really looking at early childhood, and Waldorf has some of the most beautiful early childhood and child development information I think that there is on the planet. It's very, very succinct, very beautiful, and very nurturing to the child that is in that sort of 0 to 6 space. And our early childhood and kindergarten focuses on that. I'm going to grab my notes here because I'll forget something otherwise. So let's see. So remember that kindergarten is optional. Having any sort of curriculum to sort of guide you through those 2 years, because it is a 2-year space. We'll talk about that. But having any sort of curriculum to guide you through that space is absolutely optional. The things that you should really be focusing on those kindergarten years are home rhythm and inner work. Building your skills. Those are the best things to focus on. Now, of course, we live in a society that's like, when's your kid going to start school? So a lot of families feel like they need something to sort of anchor them in those kindergarten years. So we have a fantastic product. I'm going to talk about that, but I also want to just really sort of speak in general. What you should be doing during this time period is you can be having circle time, regular circle time. By regular, I'm meaning like 3 times a week, but honestly, you could do 5 times a week if that helps you sort of anchor in your rhythm. But getting your rhythm in a good place is really the best thing that you could be doing. So what does that look like? That looks like not spending way too much time outside the home. It doesn't mean you don't spend any time outside the home. Maybe you have a play date. Maybe you belong to a co-op or a play group. Maybe you go to the library once a week. Spending time too at home, like baking and cooking together and cleaning together. All of those things that really help anchor that space of early childhood. Because remember, they're in a time of really they're really sort of mimicking everything that you do. So it's time of imitation. So you want to have a created space that they feel worthy of imitating. So you want to make sure that you're in a good space, that you are anchored spiritually, that you're pretty grounded so that you can respond appropriately to the 4 million questions that you'll be asked a day by this child. And so you want to be in a good space for that. You want to make sure you get as much rest as you can, and you want to make sure you get help in these ages. The most exhausting time of parenting, like physically exhausting, is generally those first 7 years of life. They're so etherically tied to us. So it doesn't matter if you're in another state, you're still going to feel the pull of your child. So you want to make sure you get enough rest. That's why you often see in a kindergarten, the kindergarten teacher wears an apron. And why a lot of moms have adopted the apron is there's a shield that's there. And as silly as that sounds, it really works. I run a co-op. There's about 40 kids in our co-op, and my co-leader and I last year, we started wearing aprons because we were so exhausted at the end of the day. So I thought, well, we're going to try this apron thing. I've been at this a long time. I wore an apron when my big kids were little often. And so we put the apron thing on, and wow, what a difference in our energies when we are done with co-op. We are not so exhausted anymore. And so, that's us with 40 kids. And imagine the effect that it has with just your child at home. So I'm not saying you want to shield their energy completely, because you're in this sort of loving home environment, but it is a helpful thing to sort of help you realize where that energy flows. So that's just my little tidbit about aprons. I don't really talk about aprons a whole lot. So, and people ask me often. So that's my little spiel about aprons. So my notes here: focus on rhythm and inner work. Get to know yourself. You want to know what makes you tick. You want to understand your temperament. You want to understand how you react to things. You want to understand why you react to things. You want to do that inner work, that's deep, deep inner work, so that you can be prepared for the years to come. You can be prepared for the next steps. This is really just a great time to really dial into that. You want to make sure that when you have circle time, you have a lot of fun. Sort of this breathing in and out space. Don't overcomplicate it. You can tell oodles of stories. They often respond best to stories you tell from your mouth, like that from your head, whether they be a fairy tale that you memorized as a child or a story that you made up. They love stories. They love stories. And that's the quickest way to draw a child in that is in this age group. So let's see, tell stories, have fun. If you want a planned out resource that gives you something to do every day, or no, hold on.
Oh,
got a
Corey
question over there.
Christensen says, what about kinder when you have older kids?
So when you have older kids, you just sort of fold them in, because I have five. My oldest is 22. My youngest is 8. So we have had somebody in the kindergarten space for a long time. In fact, it was really hard for me last year when I planned first grade, because I thought, oh my gosh, there's nobody in this kindergarten space anymore. You bring them along. So my secret to helping the kindergarten child feel whole and happy for the day is to do their stories first. Spend that time with them first. Get anchored with them. Have that sort of intimate space with them, curled up on the couch. Have fun with them and let them have that piece of you, because they really need it. They really, really need it. And if you can let them have that piece of you in the beginning of the day, then you're not going to be pulled away from your other children as you're trying to do lessons. So make sure you are energetically in a good place. You're getting up before your kids. You're ready to greet them. And then that when you're starting your school morning, that you're spending that time with that youngest child first, because that really helps anchor them. So often what that might look like is maybe you've got your older kids and they're doing their morning reading, or maybe they're working on some chores. You're spending time with this child, and you're telling a story that's just for them. They're curled up on your lap, and you're just taking it in together. So they get that sort of that piece of you. And it's especially important if there's younger children underneath there, because often this child might feel a little bit displaced, and this is your opportunity to really connect. So you spend this time connecting, and then you breathe out and you move on to the next child. But that child that got your attention, they're all filled up. Their bucket is full. Mom helped them sort of feel good at the beginning of the day. And then you can weave in and out of your children with regards to lessons and not feel like you are being pulled in a million directions. Of course, they'll be breathing in and out, and they might join you at the table for drawing or painting. But because you've given them that piece, you will be much better off for the rest of the morning with regards to your lessons. Now, of course, there's going to be the mom that says to me, I tried that and it didn't work. Keep trying. Because maybe their bucket is really, really, really empty, and they really, really, really need you. And so the best way to sort of overcome that mom guilt of I don't have enough of me to go around is to just stop and spend the time that you need to spend with them. I promise when you do that, it makes everything else go more smoothly. So take that time to sort of just really connect with them. Hopefully that answers your question, Ms. Tori. Okay, so if you want a planned out resource, I really love our kindergarten, and not just because I wrote it, but because it's very Waldorf centered. So there's stories that I wrote. There's a couple of stories in there that aren't, but most of the stories are stories that I wrote. So kindergarten starts at almost 5 and goes until almost 7. So 2 full years of kindergarten. In our kindergarten, we have 52 weeks of each one. So it's not just a 9-month school year. We wanted to give you something to do during those summer months as well with regards to kindergarten, because it's very easy to, especially when you're starting off, to sort of fall off during that time and then have to rev yourself back up. So 52 weeks times 2 of original stories. They're very simple stories. So if you were to do something that you wanted to plan out that maybe was in our kindergarten, just consider very simple stories. So, and you want to tell the same story for at least a week. So in our kindergarten, because it's a serial and it changes every week just a little bit, we have one character, his name is Super Sam, and he goes through 2 years of stories and all of his adventures with the animals in the forest and the festivals that he goes through and the people that he meets and all of the other friends in the forest that he meets. So there's a little nugget each week. But in truth, if you're going to tell a longer story, you really want to keep them in the same story for a while. And you might think, why? My child gets really bored. Children love repetition. They love repetition and their little brains need it. So don't think that, oh no, they've heard it once, I should be done. Think about the favorite books that maybe you've gotten from the library and how many times your child has asked you to read it over and over and over again. That's the same concept. It's the same concept of they need that repetition. Their little souls are begging for it. They feel it. Oh, it was so lovely. I just want to hear it again and again and again. Think about how many times I've heard that. Please just read it again, especially if it's bedtime. Please read it 6 more times. So you would really want to be in a place of being able to tell that story multiple times through the week. So if you're using our curriculum, we sort of lay it all out there for you. We give you all the circle times for the month, and we give you the songs. They're all recorded, so you know how they sound, you know, like what to do with them and how, you know, how to make them work for you. We sort of lay them all out for you. We also give you ideas on what to put on your nature table, ideas for nature walks, all of those things, and including a story. Usually there's a recipe. Most of the recipes that we have can absolutely be made with gluten-free flour or some other alternative. I tried to make them very open. There's some vegetarian recipes in there. There's definitely something for everyone in there. And excuse me, I want to say, don't underestimate that kitchen time with your child. Make sure you draw them in, have fun, bake together, cook together, bring them into the kitchen, let them be with you and have fun with you. Depending on your temperament, mom, you might be like, I can get it done way quicker myself. Like I'm there. I am the choleric mom that says, please don't spill the flour. But when I can let myself go and spend that time connecting, we have so much more fun than if I'm stressing out about the spilled flour. So you want to bring them into the kitchen with you as often as possible. If you have a lot of younger children, which was my reality for a long time, I would assign a different child in the kitchen with me every day. So it might be Harry's day to be in the kitchen with me, and he did all the kitchen stuff with me, whether I was cooking or baking. The next day might have been Jacob. So they all knew, and they knew that each one of them had a different day, and that was super helpful in quelling any of the, it's my turn, I can't believe it, you did it last time, all of that, because they all knew they had a day. They all knew that they had a day, and that was super, super helpful for me and for them to know, hey, mom's got me covered. She knows that, you know, I'm going to get a day, and they relax when they know that there's a rhythm to something like that. Then they tend to relax, and there's not so much angst. So the children who aren't in the kitchen with you that day, I might assign them to do something else. Like I might hand them a spray bottle of water and ask them to go clean windows for me, or, you know, go clean off the table with the spray bottle of water while we're prepping food. There are plenty of things you can get those other children to do so that you can have that kitchen time with the child whose turn it is that day. So again, don't underestimate time in the kitchen together. Make sure your rhythm feels like just fun. Have a good time. Have a good time. If you are not having a good time, then you're doing something wrong. Really and truly, have a good time. If you are not loving this, Yes, you can be exhausted, but if you are not loving this, then you have to step back and ask yourself, why am I doing this? Because remember, this is optional. Like, a couple of things here are optional. It's optional for kindergarten. It's also optional that you have them home. You can send them to school. And if that's not your reality, then just say, I love this and I'm going to figure out how to love this because I need this for me as much as they need it. So I'm going to dive in and figure out why I'm struggling. It's so, so important. That inner work piece is so, so important. And often we're sort of, we don't think about that inner work piece. We, especially if it's you've just got young children, maybe got married and you had these babies and it was really easy for a while because they were just babies, not easy. And then not that you're not exhausted, but then all of a sudden they were toddlers and then they start to have opinions of their own and they're running away from you and you're trying to figure out how to handle this toddler and this newborn then. And gosh, it's not as easy as you thought it was going to be. It's not as pretty as you thought it was going to be. But that's really where your diving into inner work helps you so much, because then all of those feelings that are coming up inside you, you can figure out why you're having them. And you can start to put that energy from those feelings into a direction that is much more healthy for you and for your family. So really take this time to dive into who you are and to really have a good time with that and play with that energy, play with that space. Okay, let's see here. Do we have any questions over there? We're good. All right, so I'm going to talk about our kindergarten again. This is the hard copy of our kindergarten. It's pretty gigantic. I actually have to tell you, I prefer the digital because then you can put it in a binder and print out only what you need. But this contains our early childhood work and 2 years of kindergarten. And but that's not all. You have this space online too. So online, it's a course. I consider our kindergarten a course since it goes for more than 2 years and you have access to it for life. But within that, we also have our circle time creation piece, which is, it's more than 100 songs and they're all recorded and all of the lyrics are there. So you can learn the lyrics and go with the recording. And we go through how to create a circle, my secrets to creating a great circle time, how circle time changes as children get older. So we go through all of those. All of that is part of our kindergarten course. Again, 52 weeks times 2 of stories. Let's see, complete circle times. I said that like 4 times. I think I said that. Monthly handwork projects. There's 45 handwork projects in our kindergarten. That doesn't mean you have to do them all, but it gives you a variety. It teaches you beginning from knitting and then crochet and some embroidery. It gives you a taste of all of the handwork that you'll do within Waldorf so that you have one spot to go and there's videos for you to learn and all of that is in one place so that you can easily sort of pace yourself as you're learning these new skills. Let's see what else. We talked about nature table ideas. There's also a non-Facebook support group that we have for our early childhood and kindergarten members. So you have access to that. And that's people that are using the program. You can ask questions. You can always gather, questions and ask me as well. I respond in that group all the time. And it's a really good way to get some group coaching if you've got questions and you're really struggling. And also to sort of figure out what you want the space to feel like and look like as your children are growing. You also get a copy of Planning for Peace that comes with it as well. And it's the early childhood and kindergarten copy of Planning for Peace. But then you can sort of plan out your whole year and lay it out the way you want and what feels good. It also prompts you in several places to go to that inner workspace, to make goals for yourself, to evaluate where you are with different things. And it helps you sort of really understand what's ahead of you as far as Waldorf homeschooling goes and how you're going to be sort of moving into that next space after the kindergarten years. Okay. I think that's all as far as like what our program has in it. But I do want to say, don't overthink this time. Don't overthink the time that early childhood is. Spend time to really have a good time with your child. Play. That doesn't mean you're entertaining them. It means you're learning how to hold the space. You're learning how to hold a good rhythm. You're learning how to, keep your menu in a good place so that you know what everybody's eating. You're learning about yourself. You're learning how to keep house well. All of those things that really are hallmarks of early childhood. Those are the things you should be taking in during this time. I know society is so hell-bent. I don't know any other word besides hell-bent on making sure that children know their ABCs when they're in kindergarten. And that is not what kindergarten is about. Kindergarten is about sort of loving the space. They have their entire lives to learn the rest of that. They don't have to learn it now. Yeah.
Is the Planning for Peace planner just for school, or can it be used as an all-around planner?
It's not a day planner. It's not a planning out your year in that way. It is a school planner. It teaches you how to, we've sort of pioneered this method of planning over the last few years. And it's a method that I've always used, but I brought it to our audience. And it's a method of taking the time to lay each step out. And it's really important that you learn how to do it in kindergarten, because then it won't be such a big deal when you start through the grades. So it is not a day planner. It is a planning planner. It's a school planner. So hopefully that helps answers that question. Okay. I hope you guys have a wonderful week.